Hey players, this is a special preview of some of our content over at Game of Crimes on Patreon. We provide a lot of content. In fact, we have over 57 posts where we go into things like our case of the month, which is what this special episode will be about. We have our bonus episodes. In fact, we just finished a 12-part series with Murph and JP talking about the real DEA narcos, The reason you won't hear this anywhere else, because these guys have never done this anywhere else. Only on Game of Crimes over at Patreon do you get to hear this kind of content. We also go into things like our monthly live stream where we review movies. And in fact, for December, we reviewed the greatest Christmas movie ever made. Yes, Die Hard. And in fact, we reviewed it with one of the LAPD SWAT members. In fact, Rick Massa was involved in that epic North Hollywood shootout. He was our special guest analyst for Die Hard. And so you're going to hear stuff you don't hear anywhere else, only here on Game of Crimes. So what we wanted to do is let you hear the case of the month. This is actually one of my cases, a gang-related homicide where the victim was run over with his own car 8 times by 2 suspects. We ended up arresting a lot of people, but the details are in the investigation, and that's what we cover in this. So stay tuned. We're going to play about 25 minutes of it, and then I'll give you more information at the end of it. So remember, this is an exclusive preview of content you'll find only over on patreon.com/Game of Crimes. So let's get ready to play the biggest, baddest, most dangerous game of all, the Game of Crimes. It is that time of year. It is the giving season, and we're in the giving mood. And not only are we giving away stuff, we review the greatest Christmas movie ever made.
Die Hard. That's it.
Die Hard. So make sure you guys tune into that. It's going to be on our Facebook page, December 22nd, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Facebook.com/Game of Crimes podcast. You can see it there live. We might have some surprises. Who knows? Some special effects. Murph's going to throw a flashbang, at the right time and blow out the windows in his house. You just never know.
You never know. That's it. We got company coming in, so it might be a good time for that.
It might be a good time to practice, dynamic entry techniques. So
kids and grandkids. It's going to be a lot of fun, but might be just a little bit stressful.
You might need an extraction team, not an entry team.
You're not kidding.
We'll come in and get you. So, hey, guess what, folks? By the way, if you're listening to this, it means you are a valued member of our player community. You are on Patreon, and you are listening to our Case of the Month. And guess what? If you're listening to our Case of the Month, that means you are at the Warden of the Throne or Guardian at the Realm level, and we appreciate you so much, don't we, Murph?
Absolutely.
For spending their hard-earned money with us.
Absolutely. We couldn't do any of this without you. It's an adventure.
Well, we
for
could.
us.
We just wouldn't get paid for it. We'd just be talking to nobody.
Well, if they saw our expenses, they'd know we're not making any money.
Oh, dude. People on minimum wage 40 years ago were making more than us right now. But
hey, let me tell
it's
you,
fun.
As a uniformed police officer in 1975 in Bluefield, West Virginia, I was making more per hour than we're making on this. But hey, not complaining here. We're having a blast.
It's a labor of love. But look, you build it up, right? You build it up there, and we do it because folks like you tell one, share one, tell one person about this, share the link with them, get them on Patreon so that we can talk to you about this month. Of course, if it's the 20th, it's our Case of the Month. And Murph had it last month, so that means I have it this month. So it is that time of the month again, Murph.
That's a good way to put it. And prepare everybody here. You might want to get your pillows and blankets because this, it is Morgan's case here. So let's see what happens.
That's going to be boring. However, I will tell you this one, I was giving Murph a little heads up. This one is going to be graphic. This one's a bad case. Anyway, if you guys, sit down, let's strap in and we'll get started. But what we'll do is let me kind of set the stage is that normally, like when you work investigations, I was a detective at this time. We worked pretty closely with the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, the Finney County Sheriff's Office. We all had a good working relationship. So anytime there's a case that might cross jurisdictional boundaries, there was no pissing contest. There was no, we want to do this for the glory. We all just worked together. And so this is going to be one of those cases, but it starts off in the city. It actually starts off on February 4th, 1996. At 05:29 hours. So we use, military time. So it occurred at 5:30 in the morning, basically. And one of the patrol officers is driving in her district, and she comes across this car in front of Buffalo Jones Elementary School. Her name's Katie Pauley. Now, before we get started, I got a quick story about Katie.
Uh-oh.
She married, no, it's a good one. It's a fun one. She married a guy named Paul Pauley. He started off as a firefighter, saw the light, became a cop, and which is good for him. But, back when she was single, she's driving a little piece of shit car. I think it was a Hyundai. It was like a gold colored Hyundai. Well, we would get some rains in some of those areas, and we wouldn't get a whole lot of rain because it's western Kansas. But when you did, it would tend to some of the streets might flood, and in the the areas where there's the dips, it would get the water would actually get kind of high. Well, we told her, we said, you just got to be careful, driving through those things, especially in patrol cars. And, because some of these Chevys at the time, they were just Chevy Caprices, they just they weren't exactly the best cars. They were like boats, literally, they were boats. So, we get a call one night, and, it's been raining, and she hit something, and she needs help because her car has flooded out. She hit the water, it flooded out the vehicle. So, we started calling her, and that was about the time when, Tom Clancy's The Hunt for Red October came out, so we started calling her Pinger. "Give me one ping facility. One ping only, please." She actually put that on the tag of her car, Pinger, Pingr. So Katie Polly, Pinger.
Hey, Katie, I sympathize with you. When I was in Miami, I was driving a C's car. It was a Nissan Maxima, and we were out doing surveillance. And you know how in Miami you had the summer rainstorms every single day, and we're in a
At
neighborhood.
3 o'clock, like clockwork, every day,
Yep,
3 o'clock.
yep. And then it just got so steamy. Well, the rain stopped, and I'm trying to catch up to surveillance because we'd been peeling off each other. And I went through a puddle, and it hit the engine of that Maxima, and every window in the car just steamed up immediately. I had
Steamed
to
up.
lock up the brakes, slide to a stop, and then I'd sit there with towels for about 10 minutes while the windows dried out. So I'm with you, sister. I know where you've been.
No, where's she been? Well, this Garden City ain't Miami, I'll tell you that right now. So, anyway, so, but she drives up on this, and of course, she does the right thing. She secures the area, and obviously, what she sees right away, both the headlights were on. There's no keys in the ignition. Both windows were broken out of both doors, the driver's side and the passenger side front doors. Blood inside the car on the hood, grill, and driver's side interior. So it was pretty clear that something bad had happened. And the driver, the victim's name is Juan Ayon, Ayon. Juan is missing. And Juan, at this point, too, I think he's about, let me check the report here. He is, I think, 34 years old at that point, 33 years old. So he's 33.
Had he been reported
Miss,
missing?
no, had not been reported missing at that
Okay.
point. So, and there's a reason why too. As we got witness statements later, I kind of jump ahead a little bit, but he had gotten with some friends, said, "Hey, let's go drinking. Let's go get some beer." So he left. So he was not reported missing at that point. But so Katie Pauley, Officer Pauley, gets down there. Well, I get called out, and so as we're getting to that, but we've got other people coming down because one of the things that was seen from there is that there's two sets of footprints, one from the driver's side, one from the passenger side, clearly get out and leave. Now, Steve, there's something, and this is one of the lessons I learned when I went through the FBI serial crime profiling course and stuff. Anytime you find a vehicle that's been abandoned, there's a good chance is that they live close to that area because they'll abandon the vehicle. They're not going to abandon it 10 miles away and walk 10 miles.
Right.
So this is February in Kansas. It's cold. I think it was 7 degrees that morning. We pulled temperatures, wind chill. Yeah, so it was 7 degrees that morning. So it was not, nice and toasty like it is down in Florida, you traitorous bastard.
68 degrees at 6 o'clock this morning, just so you know.
Yeah, it was 24 degrees at 6 o'clock this morning, just so that you know.
Oh, damn.
So we, obviously there's footprints there. So one of the key things you got to do is you got to preserve that entire area because we got to stop vehicles from driving through it because you could actually obliterate key pieces of evidence. Which a footprint, actually a photograph I took, ended up becoming one of the biggest pieces of evidence in the case, linking the person because there's a technique too, especially when you take photographs in the snow, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Which you don't know about living in Florida now. But snow is that white powdery stuff, not cocaine. This is that white powdery stuff, right? That's on the ground. But one of the things you have to do is you have to take pictures. You don't take it straight down. I mean, you take pictures straight down. You shine a light from the side so you can get some shadow, so you can get some contrast. And then we use this special ruler too. It's for photogrammetry, so it allows you then to actually go back and scientifically measure things to know, okay, we know the ruler is exactly this big. Now we know how big the shoe is. And on shoes, there's always things called artifacts, defects in there that we can use to not only tie this pattern of the shoe, but the actual get down to the actual shoe. So they kept that area pretty well secured. But we started looking for things. So one of the key things you do at that point too, like I said, we started calling out other officers. I'm the duty detective, so I'm the lead right now, and we've got to start securing the crime scene. Obviously, we want to start looking for 1A on the victim to see, has he returned home? Is there anything there? So we've got people doing that at that time. And let me pull up my portion, because what I would do, we were supposed to start. You guys wouldn't know this too. We were going to start at recording 30 minutes earlier, but I had to go through 472 pages to find just the ones I wanted to talk about, and that boiled it down to about 70.
Damn.
But,
If you got that done in 30 minutes, that's pretty damn good.
well, you remember the case too, so I don't have to scan. I don't have to pull out all the evidence reports or some of the supplemental reports by other detectives because I was there. So basically, what happened was I get called. So at five. So Katie Pauley finds it at 5:29. They secure the area. Then obviously the supervisor gets there, determine they need an investigator. So I get called at 5:55 a.m. that morning. I arrive on scene, within 30 minutes. So for about the next 30 minutes, I processed the vehicle, and when I got there, there was an extensive amount of blood, Steve, originating all over the area. I mean, I looking at my report here, extensive amount of blood originating from the passenger headlight area. So one of the things that tells me it's the passenger headlight area. It means something got struck in the passenger headlight area because we have blood spatter now. So you'll hear cast off stains, you'll hear about things like that. Well, blood spatter. So if you have a knife, a hammer, stuff like that, they can actually tell if your hand's moving up, if it's moving down. Well, that spatter means is that it's a law of physics. An object in motion remains in motion unless acted upon by an unbalanced external force. Well, something got hit enough to where the blood, basically the car's moving forward, but the blood is in a sense stationary. As the car moves forward, that blood comes back in space and it splatters the car. So we know we've got points of impact on the car, which, right away, Steve, I'm thinking this is not going to end well. This is not a missing person as far as I'm concerned right now.
I was going to say, anytime you get a call at 5:30, 5:50 a.m., it's never a good thing. It's not like somebody's calling and say, "Hey, pal, how you doing this morning? Want to grab coffee?" It's bad news.
Well, and it's funny too because the episode with Trisha Cannon just came out this morning, episode 28, and that's what she said. Nothing really happens between 9 and 5. Crime, for some reason, crime doesn't happen between 9 to 5. It happens, in the late evening, early morning hours.
Go figure, right?
So, kind of give you guys an idea of what it's like, when you go there. I mean, I take detailed notes and stuff, so I can tell you, minute to minute where I'm at doing it. So, from 6:21 to 7:22, I processed the scene. From 7:22 to 9:11, not the call number but 9:11 a.m. I was at the law enforcement center collecting additional follow up
And coffee.
briefing. Yeah, well, yeah, you're going to have to get a lot of coffee at that point. So then from 9:12 to 10:46, I directed a search in the 700 block of Taylor that ended in the 900 block of Pearl. So we're now searching the stuff from 10:46 to 11:05. I was in search the 1800 block of Buffalo Jones, and I'm going through, and then I examined the vehicle. So you want to do a quick examination. We had the vehicle towed, and that's one of the key things too is when you tow it. I actually recovered some evidence off of the vehicle. I had some brush. And that was key because later on we get the highway patrol aircraft. We have an idea what we're looking for, and I think one of the guys may have spotted it. We just weren't sure. I don't know. To this day, I'm thinking, why did a deputy go out there? Because actually, where we thought we spotted something was actually in the county, not too far outside the city, but it's in the county. So I'm not sure if a deputy went out there and didn't see it. But anyway, pulling additional stuff. So it's a piece of brush, which tells me we know the area pretty well, so it has to be down by the river, the Arkansas River, which had no water in it at the time, so it's the Arkansas River bed. And you got Arkansas shirt on with the hogs on. Is that another free shirt, Murph?
It was. We spoke at the University of Arkansas, and I got a free T-shirt out of it.
Do you own any clothing?
A couple. They might be a little ragged.
I just don't want to know if you get free underwear. That is a discussion for another time.
Just think of thong and then move on.
Which, by the way, it's one of the funny stories. A Florida guy got arrested for putting a thong over his face as a mask on a United Airlines flight and got kicked off.
Idiots. I was sorry.
Came to one of our players put that out on Twitter. Anyway, so what I did is because I used to be on the state patrol, I got a hold of the guys, and so from 11:43 basically to 13:44, so basically for about 2 hours, we conducted aerial surveillance all over the area. Up and down the county line, looking along the riverbed. I thought we spotted something, but again, we're still looking at this point. We're still looking for a body. We're still searching and stuff. So I get back at about 1:45 or about 2:15. I arrived back at the law enforcement center. I've got evidence I'm collecting. So at about 3:04 that afternoon, we get advised possible crime scene at 809 place called 809 Chesterfield. We get there, and what it was is we'd found and I'll get into it a little bit later, but that's where we found some glass. So remember the glass, the windows were broken out of the passenger vehicle. Well, we found the glass and we found some blood at this other location. But then guess what? Just as that shit's happening, I'm working the crime scene there. We get at about five. So from 3:08 to 5:19, we're doing that. But at 5:19, somebody had found a body in the county. Just literally, I mean, when I say literally, just like half a mile outside the city limits, but it's in the county.
How did you get the report of the broken glass?
Somebody had spotted it.
I'm
Somebody,
guessing that's a house, right?
yeah, I think I'll have to look through the reports. I think through our follow-ups, I should say, I think through our follow-ups, because we were all over the place. I think one of the officers, I'll have to take a look at it, but I think one of the officers came across
Okay.
across the broken glass, because that is in the area of where all of the stuff was going on. So, you start, what you do is you do concentric rings. You start the crime scene, you keep working your way out, because the other thing we do too, that you got to be methodical. This is one of the things too about doing cases. Like, you got to know, we've got maps of the street, so we know each house that's there. We want to know who's there. Have we interviewed them? Who have we not interviewed? We have to make sure we go back. We want to make sure that we interview everybody around that area. Then we expand it out and keep expanding it. And that's how I believe we had found it. But then everything turns upside down, because then at 5:19, a citizen is out driving in that area and discovers the body. So we respond. So I'll tell you how close I was to this. This is how close we were to the body. At 7:19, I get the call that body's been discovered. And 3 minutes later, I was on scene. I mean, that's how close we were.
Dang.
We knew that we had a good feeling because of the brush in the car and potentially what the trooper spotted as we were flying, that the body had to be down there somewhere. So what you do is, I mean, this is winter, right? So guess, Steve, you know what it was like up here when you used to be up here in Northern Virginia, TB, Benedict Murphy.
TB, I like it.
TB Benedict Murphy. So you know what it's like? I mean, because it gets dark here, at 4:30, 5 o'clock. So we're getting down to that point where we have to this is one of the key decisions we have to make right away. So first thing you do is when you get there, you tell everybody, basically, stay the hell away from my crime scene. Nobody goes in. I find a place that you can walk up to the body where there's no tire tracks, there's no shoe prints. I walk up. I want to take photographs of everything around the body and around that area. Then I get up on a hilltop and I take pictures of the whole crime scene. And then we have a decision to make. So I'm there from 5:22. At 7:43, I've got a KBI agent that works this with me, Kansas Bureau of Investigation, named Mike Keller. Mike was a great guy to work with. Him and I worked a lot of cases together. We decide what we're going to do, because there's two decisions we could have made. We could have left the body there until morning, because we're securing the crime scene till morning. It's really very tough to process the crime scene in the middle of the night with as cold as it is, considering the stuff we have to do. There's little chance, because there's no snow coming in. We check the weather. Or we take the body and we secure the crime scene. So what we decided to do, and it was really out of, for the family. I mean, how would you feel if you knew that your husband, the body had been found and it was left out in the field all night long?
Oh yeah, you'd be in court over that one.
Well, but we had to be careful though too, because we wanted to make sure we didn't compromise the crime scene to where anything we found then would be hard to introduce later. So, but we felt that we had enough initial light at that time. We were going to just lock the scene down. We were able to remove the body and then take it down to the hospital where the morgue is at and wait for a pathologist to come. So we removed the body that night. And so one of the things you have to do is you take custody of the body, just like a piece of evidence. So I was in charge of the investigation. We're working with the sheriff's office. Now, here's a thing too, and you probably dealt with this when you're in Krusty Krab, West Virginia. There, Krusty Crotch. What is it? Blue Crotch, something like that. But when you're a Fed, this didn't affect you as much as it would affect us even at the state. Let's say that you're kidnapped in West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
You're driven across the state line into Virginia, and you're killed in Virginia. You can prosecute them either place, but but because the crime starts somewhere, you didn't have to worry about that too much as a Fed because you had jurisdiction over everything. So, but in the county, the question is, we had to determine, was he kidnapped from the city and taken into the county? Because obviously the body is in the county. That's going to be the crime scene. So that appears the homicide occurs in the county. So we early on we just made an agreement with the sheriff's office. We're going to be the lead agency. We'll be the primary because it all started in town,
Did
and then we'll work
KBI
around that.
did KBI have any input on that?
Now, KBI is an assisting agency at that point, so they've got statewide jurisdiction. So, and the great thing about having KBI is we didn't have to worry if we needed to go to another location or do anything. They had resources through around the state, which we ended up going to other places and doing interviews. So, obviously we get back, and this is still on that same day. So my day starts at basically 5:30 that morning, or 5:45 that morning, 5:55. I'm sorry. Get the call. You know, I arrived back at the LAC basically at 8:30 at night, and I'm there until past midnight. We're still doing follow up. We've got interviews to do of the brother. Of the wife. We've got some witnesses now that are starting to come forward. And so we start, this thing is in motion. We've got several detectives now working with me. We've got the sheriff's office, and the KBI's down there now too. So we probably have, I would say, 15 investigators on the ground working this, in addition to patrol who are securing things. And so now we're starting to hone in on the footwear is going to be key, because I have an article here later, Steve, from the Supreme Court in Kansas where this case was appealed to. And a lot of it was nailing down the footwear that people had that we found at suspects' houses later during search warrants was very key. So, we started tracking this footwear.
One quick question. You said you arrived back at LAC. What's that?
The Law Enforcement Center.
Okay. Got to watch those acronyms. You know how you state and local
Now,
guys
I
are.
defined it the first time. I said LEC, Law Enforcement Center. You just forgot I said that. It's still too early for you, isn't it? Or, you're ready for your first nap or second nap. I
Getting
can't remember
close.
at this
When
point.
we finish
Getting
this
close.
interview.
So, again, two distinct sets of footwear. So we're tracing them all throughout the area. It looks like in one area, the footprints continue, but we lose sight of them, and we lose sight of them right at a place where it looks like tire tracks come through. So our thinking is somebody had gotten into the vehicle at that point. But again, we still go off the assumption if the vehicle's there, most likely they're very close to that area. So I take photographs. One of them is pretty clear of Nike. Nike was a popular shoe at that time. We had seen so many crime scenes with Nike shoes. So we knew it was a Nike. But the other one was basically looked like a boot wear. So one of the things I have is a diagram that we draw, and it shows, the different shoe impressions. So I actually have the measurements of everything plus the photographs and the tire impressions in the area. So what I was getting back to, what we did at that night, and even that morning, when taking pictures, like I said, you use the flashlight. Do you do it from the side to get contrast because it creates shadows?
Right.
And now you get a real good. But we do something unique the next day at the crime scene I'll tell you about with the KBI. So we're up in the air. Like I say, we come back. We've got the footwear impressions. We've got our evidence technician out. We've got additional things. We've got consent to searches going on. We're prepping a few search warrants at this point. And so that's, basically through the first day, that's what we're doing. And then there's a lot of follow up. It's midnight. We're trying to log evidence, doing a lot of follow up. But then the next day is going to be a very long day because the officers have been out at the crime scene. So this is on the 5th now. The officers have been out on the crime scene, securing it. So the next day, the KBI agent, Mike Keller, and I, we're in charge of processing the crime scene. So, and you can see that it's a collaborative effort because it's in the county, but the city, I'm leading the crime scene search along with the KBI. Like I said, really good working relationship with the Times. So we process that whole crime, and we are looking everywhere. We're documenting everything. And one of the neat things, there are techniques for you can actually cast impressions in the snow, but you have to use certain things. But one of the neat things Mike Keller did, and I thought was really cool, he had silver spray paint. So you use silver spray paint. I can't remember what else he did. It might have been lacquer. But you use that, the silver spray paint really highlights the ridges and definition, and then the lacquer obviously, locks it into place.
Wow.
And then we're actually able to cast it using some special material that he had that was kind of cold, because if you do anything warm, guess what's going to happen? I mean,
Right.
boom.
Melt
So
the snow.
it's really, it's kind of like, it's like making cold oatmeal in a sense. So, we put it in there. We get a good cast of that. But we are out there from basically 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 at night processing this whole thing. But then we go to the vehicle. So the vehicle's been taken to our police garage. It's been secured down there. So we have KBI agents down there. We're going to do blood spatter analysis, but first thing we got to do is we super glue the car, and so we create an entire super glue fuming tent around the car, and we bring the I just space out the names, something blah blah blah. It's the official name for. No, not cryogenics. You're thinking of Ron Hubbard. Or I don't know what it is, but I forget the specific name for super glue. But yeah, but that's one of the things they noticed too, is that's how this was discovered. They noticed that the fumes from the super glue would actually adhere to anything that was fingerprints, the oils in your fingerprints and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And what it would do, just like super glue, it would create very hard ridges so that we could actually identify things that we couldn't see on leather, on vinyl, on the interior and stuff. So we put this all together. I can't tell you how many rolls of film we shot. I mean, it's one of the things, man, you never get a second chance, on evidence like
Right.
that. So, and that was back in the day before digital stuff. So we were shooting roll after roll after roll of 35 millimeter film. We take a picture, take a picture, take a picture. I mean, sometimes we have 2 to 3 pictures of the same thing because you never know if it's going to be out of focus, something might be lost. And then we'd take a duplicate set of pictures with a second roll just in case something happens to the first roll. I mean, this is a homicide
Right.
investigation. You lose a roll of film,
It's
you are
nothing.
pretty.
It's nothing. And it looks like your name is cyanacrylate for super glue. Does that sound right?
Cyanacrylate.
That's the way I'd
Let's see
say it.
here. Super glue through the magic of Google. Let's see what it says. Super glue. What did you type in? Super glue.
Name. Super glue name.
Chemical name. All right. Cyanacrylate.
There you go.
Cyanoacrylate.
Look at me.
Cyanoacrylic. So yeah. So any of those things, it will adhere to that. But at the same time, so once we get done super gluing it, then we also start taping it. I'm not sure if we taped it first or afterwards. I think we taped it afterwards because we wanted to make sure the super glue, we didn't destroy any of the fingerprints potentially, through the use of taping. So we super glued this whole thing. It takes about 2 hours. Then we're doing tape, and really that's what you're doing is we have fiber evidence cards. We're looking for trace fiber evidence, so we are taping everything. We've got clear plastic tape. We tape the seats. We tape the floor. I mean,
Holy cow.
it's time consuming. I mean,
Oh,
we are
yeah.
there.
The most I've ever heard before was taking a big plastic bag and you put your super glue in there and put your item, which is, something that you want to see if you can raise the fingerprints. But I've never heard of doing a whole car. That's pretty cool.
Hey, players, like I said, that was a special preview of some of our content you'll find only at patreon.com/Game of Crimes. We've got some really good stuff. Like I said, 57 posts. We review a lot of things. In fact, one of our random surprises that we put out, we looked at the issue with fentanyl, the impact it was having, and what are some of the things that are being done to stop the importation of these drugs that are just killing people. In fact, fentanyl killed 100,000 Americans last year, and Murph and I get into some of these details. You'll find these in-depth discussions like this only over at Patreon. So come join us, patreon.com/Game of Crimes. In fact, come over there and you can hear our latest Q&A where Murph and I take all questions from everybody. We answer everything that you send to us. Some interesting answers, some funny ones, and sometimes some really serious ones too. So we cover the entire gamut. So all of this and more, things we don't cover in our free episodes, we cover over here at patreon.com/Game of Crimes. So just click on the link in the episode notes and head on over and join us, or go to patreon.com/Game of Crimes. Take a look at all the fantastic content and see which level you want to be a player at in the biggest, baddest, most dangerous game of all, the Game of Crimes.